Alright, folks, making another one. This one is kind of controversial, I think. Maybe I'll look somewhat naive or silly. I don't know, it's funny because in some ways I don't think anyone will like this video. But basically, I wanted to talk about, I guess, the sort of, it's hard to describe how to put it, but, what I sense is like a feeling of evil in the air. It could just be a BS. It could just be a desperate attempt to. I don't know. It's like I used to like to think I was a good person growing up when I was younger. I wanted to believe that I wanted to do good. I was afraid of dark music and dark themes and adult things, and I'm a child at heart. I've always been a child at heart. Um, Even children are not free from darkness. Children in a lot of ways can be. They don't give a crap about anyone but themselves, and sometimes you hear them whining and complaining to their parents in my store about wanting to get some toy or something. And the nice thing about a child is you can say no, and they'll have their moment of whininess, and then they just drop it eventually. They're just like, oh, well, okay, I'm not going to get it. They accept it, and they move on. They have to. Sometimes some of them, the real bratty ones, just go on and on. Make a huge fuss, and you don't even see the end of it. The parents take them out to the car, and they're probably still crying, but eventually they get over it and pipe the hell down. But, anyway, so I don't know. I'm not trying to say that being childlike is in any way a virtue necessarily. But the world does corrupt you as you get older, The older you get, the more you sort of become envious of people, the more you start comparing yourselves to other people, The more you want to experience things that were, taboo, or things that, wouldn't have been something you'd been able to comprehend when you were a child. I remember learning for the first time about fellatio as a kid and thinking, oh my God, are you kidding? People do that, It just seems sick as a child. Looking back at it now, it's like, I guess, it becomes normalized because you've seen it enough times. But as a child, I remember thinking, what on earth possesses people to do that, And I guess, you just sort of become accustomed to the idea, well, people do it, and so, there you go. But it's like, they always say, when you're in the moment, there's some mechanism whereby the brain doesn't think about how disgusting of an act of what you're actually doing is, and you just kind of like, you're all about making your partner happy, because that's what it takes, I guess. But it's just, as a child, you don't consider those, you don't think of that as a possibility, It just seems, I don't know. All I know is, I was always kind of nervous about the adult world. It was scary to me. It was too graphic, too intense. And I think I'm still that way to some extent. It's part of the reason why, when I was at a young age, there was several reasons why I decided, I half decided, half didn't decide to remain celibate. Um, you know, Part of it was decided for me. I had a defect. I think I might have even discovered the source of my defect. Actually, there's what was it called? I was looking over my old emails. I finally got to checking my emails, and I found my sister's email. Um, she got tested before she was having a child, to make sure the kid wouldn't have any serious issues, and she did test for some adrenal genetic defect of some sort, um, whereby the non-classical form of it, I forget the name of it, but the non-classical form can lead to some amount of androgyny, which may be where I had my issues. I'm not saying, just so everyone knows, everything is fairly normal. There's just, it's not that uncommon what I had, but I don't want to go into detail anyway. Um, But I'm not a hermaphrodite. That's the point I'm making. But anyway, yeah. So how was I getting into that? So yeah, that was part of why I stayed away from from anything intimate, is because I was embarrassed about my body. It didn't look how, a classic masculine man's body looks, sadly. I still wish I just had, a regular, even just an average, male physique. I mean, my physique at this point is not that. I had gynecomastia surgery. I'll just tell you right there. That's like, basically most of it. Um, so I look a little bit more normal, but I still have kind of, my hips are, you know, shaped in a womanly kind of way, which I fucking hate. I've got rounded hips like a woman does, which is really pisses me off. I would love to have like the V situation, but I'm sure a lot of guys would. I mean, I'm not the only person. There's a lot of guys that have had issues, but basically, you know, I'm attracted to beautiful women, and beautiful women don't have those kind of defects. If they have any kind of defect, it's probably a mental defect. But genetically, as far as their physicality is concerned, they're specimens. And I don't know. Maybe I'm guess I'm kind of an asshole. And I just don't think it's fair. I was gonna make another video about this, but it's like it's just not fair that beautiful women have that. They get straight aces played. And they know how. They just get that power for nothing. They just so happen to be the children, have two parents with decent genes that combine in a way that they have great genes. And some of them, they look great, and they even have diseases and things you wouldn't expect them to have. So it's not even like they're perfect. But looks wise, pretty girls they have all the power in the world. It's so unfair. They get to make all the decisions. And why they deserve it? No, it's just a genetic roll of the dice that worked out for them. Same goes for really good-looking guys too. Genetic roll of the dice worked out for them. If I'd gotten the same level of body that I have for face, that probably would have worked out well for me too. But my body is effed as far as I'm concerned. It's not. It's not. It's not good enough where if I wanted to be with the pretty girl, I wouldn't have to deal with some defects in them, and I just, it's just not fair. I just can't live with that unfairness. So that was part of it. Was just bitterness. I can't have the girls I want. Um, you know, I'm not don't have a good enough body, and I don't want to work as hard as I need to get those girls. Because you have to overcome your physical limitations with skills. I don't have that either. So that was part of why I decided to remain celibate, was because I couldn't have the girls I wanted. So I didn't feel like it was worthwhile for me to sleep with girls that didn't attract me particularly. Um, I still had chances with those girls, but every time I had with girls that were out of my league, essentially, they didn't know they were out of my league because I was fully clothed, and with my clothes on, I look fine. Take my clothes off, and you notice that it's not quite all it's cracked up to be. What they might think. Um, and I didn't think it was fair to, you know, to lie to women that way, to say, oh, well, everything looks fine, and then you get to that moment, and then I was worried either I'd be rejected, or I'd feel like, they felt like they were being kind of, bamboozled. I didn't want to have to deal with them, the disappointment of what they would think of my shitty body. So that was maybe half of why I didn't pursue women. I still had chances with women that were way out of my league, or at least from the outside appearances, like same with me. And from outside appearances, these girls were gorgeous, and I had a chance. There wasn't a lot of chances, a handful of chances. I mean, I might have probably had more if I'd tried harder, but I never tried. The ones that came to me, I had chances with, but but I didn't follow through with it because I thought that it wouldn't work out. Um, because I knew that I wasn't quite up to their level, looks wise, and also just because I never connected. That was the other part of it, is that I've always was waiting for. I didn't want to have frivolous relationships. I didn't want to just sleep with people. I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to find love. I never wanted to find a fling. I was never interested in a fling. To me, a fling is kind of like masturbation. you get your rocks off and you move on. Why do you need to bring another human being into that? Some people want to do that, and that's fine, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it leads to hurt, it leads to issues. It's messy, it's sticky. Maybe not literally and figuratively, but it's. I don't know. It felt wrong to me. I wanted to believe in God. I wanted to be the good choir boy for a long time. I don't exactly know why. Maybe it was because I wanted to believe that 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 by following a more righteous path that I would be rewarded by God. And stupidly, I thought that I didn't know what I was hoping to be rewarded with. I guess I thought I'd find that God would bring me my perfect woman if I was good. If I followed the rules, did everything right, that God would lead me to my ideal woman. But that didn't happen. And it's kind of, I guess, God never plays matchmaker particularly. I don't know. When you're younger, you think that somehow things will be set up, but the older I get, I don't know. Maybe, and who knows? Maybe God at some point did bring someone to me, and I just didn't do what I needed to do to make it happen. I was just too timid about it because of the whole body issue thing. It's possible. I don't know. I never really, any of the girls I had chances with that were really pretty, I never really connected with on a deep level. I didn't have time to get to know them because they wanted to get physical quickly, and I wasn't ready. I wanted to know who they were first, and then once they saw that I wasn't immediately interested, they thought, oh, well, screw this guy, and they moved on, which was disappointing to me. I always wanted to get to know them first, but I never had that opportunity. And really, the ones that I did know, for the short period of time that I knew them, I doubt would have been people I would have connected with deeply. But you also wonder, well, how deeply do you connect with the person you end up, being with for a long time? I mean, most people probably, that's not always going to be a perfect match. I was an idealist. I was waiting for an ideal situation. I thought if I was good and I followed, a righteous path, that I would be rewarded for it. But I guess it doesn't work that way. There's a lot of guys like me who are looking for perfection and never going to get it. So anyway, I mean, I guess I just bring this up because, so that was, so part of my celibacy was, was my childlike innocence, Part of my celibacy was delusions of, of God's rewarding me for doing the right thing. Part of my celibacy was that I never connected with a girl on a mental and emotional level um, in a way that I'd feel comfortable revealing my flaws to them. Part of my celibacy was they scared the hell out of me with talk about STDs, and I never wanted an STD. And when I was in grade school, I remember being shocked at seeing some of the pictures of some of the stuff, and it was just kind of like, it seemed like I don't want any of this stuff. This stuff is gross, or even AIDS was a big thing when I was a kid. Now they actually have solutions for AIDS. When I was a kid, it's like you could die if you F around the wrong way. You still can. I mean, not as, at least now you can get treatment for it, but, and the other thing was abortions. I didn't want to impregnate somebody and have to worry about getting an abortion. It's like I personally don't, I'm not pro-life, but at the same time, I don't think it's responsible to go around having sex to the point where you need to get an abortion to deal with the problem. I don't know about this Plan B stuff. It almost seems like a version of an abortion, but I can't really be sure. I don't really know enough about how it works or whether or not, does conception happen? Did the egg and the sperm get together? Does it matter that the egg and the sperm get together? Like, get into these weeds of technicalities and things like that. I don't really know. I'd like, basically, so there were several things that kept me from sleeping around. And I got old. I'm now in my 40s. I can't have what I want in terms of women anymore. God didn't bring the right one to me, so that's not happening. I don't want to be with an older woman, particularly. Sorry, I just don't. It's just reality. And so I was like, well, I don't know. I ended up watching this. I was kind of always been curious, but well, how about those guys that do get women? How do they do it? Is it inborn? Do they figure it out on their own? Where do they get these techniques from? How are they so good? Well, why are some men just, you know, have a magnetic attraction for women. And at one point I saw there's this guy, I forget his name. I don't even want to promote him too much because he seems like he's kind of basically this guy is like all about embracing the animal reality. We are animals. It's a tough. It's something I never wanted to admit to myself because by admitting that you're an animal, there's a hierarchy. There's a game to play as soon as you admit that you're an animal, and those who break the rules climb to the top. Rule followers in the animal game are not going to win. You're not going to be head honcho. You're not going to get the ladies. If you're following the rules, you're trying to be moral, you're trying to be ethical, then you have a disadvantage in that you have to follow the rules and everyone else doesn't. If they don't care about being just, they don't care about being ethical, they can break all the rules and get to the top. And that's what happens in the world. The people who get to the top, I think for the most part, are rule breakers. And it's not even the rules of, capitalism. It's not the rules of capitalism. They follow the rules of capitalism perfectly. It's the rules of morals and ethics. It's the rules of not worshiping the golden calf, or not worshiping false idols. It's being an expert at worldliness. Being an expert at manipulation. Knowing how to use people to your own advantage. That's what the rule breakers do. If you're talking about quote unquote God's law or whatever, if you believe in that sort of thing. And I guess I only really know Christianity because I can't really say why. I guess it's you hear it the most because it's around in this country. But I like a lot of the rules in the Bible. The Ten Commandments on the whole are a decent list. There's a lot of whole, don't put other gods before me and all this stuff that's about having a jealous God. It's like, why is God jealous? God's supposed to be perfect. Why would he be jealous? You can logically pick apart the Bible in a lot of places where it just doesn't make any sense without some amount of faith that God is good and that, God is worth following. So, there's a lot of glossing over of things that don't make logical sense by saying, well, God works in mysterious ways. That's always the catch line. Oh, yeah, God works in mysterious ways. You can't possibly understand it. Don't try to understand it logically. Just know that God is good and follow the book and you'll be fine. But as a person who's always appreciated logic, that's a tough bridge for me to cross. And the other part of it is, you look at the people who are the God worshippers, the real followers, or at least the people that claim to be. There's some people that really claim to be, Christians, but you look at a lot of the Christians in there, who are they supporting? Republicans that want to rape the earth for resources, They want to have tons of weapons in the military, so that we can defend our country. They don't even think about the fact that, thou shalt not kill. No, fund the Defense Department to the max so that we can have drones and missiles and, small nuclear weapons and, all these instruments of death. You have all these Christians thinking that having a big military budget is a good thing, and that seems very anti-Christian to me. And you have all these Christians that want to tell other people how to live, and it's kind of like this is where it gets tricky. Like basically, I just look at all the, the general, intolerance and hate of the right, and the total lack of regard for the environment and for living in a way that's selfless rather than the right is selfish. What do they care about? Cutting taxes. Why do they care about cutting taxes? Because they don't want to pay them. They can make an argument that the taxes aren't used the best, and they're not. But we have to. Some amount of taxes are necessary. And some amount of spending is necessary, especially at this time when we should be working on, preventing further additions to climate change. But a lot of these people on the right don't believe in climate change. They don't believe in science. Why would you believe in science if you're on the right? Because, like as I mentioned, you're not supposed to logically pick apart the Bible. You're probably not supposed to logically pick apart, government either, or scientists, or what science is saying. So it's like there's this sort of primitive faith-based tendency of people on the right to dismiss science, dismiss our effect on the environment, just sort of say, oh, well, we can do whatever we want because, we'll leave it up to God to decide, and that doesn't feel right to me at all. It feels just as ignorant. It feels selfish, oh, if you're not, you know, I don't know, a mother should have to have her rapist child, silly things like this. Um, there's a population problem. They don't want to, they're not worried about, having less kids or consuming less resources. They want to get ahead just like any other asshole, some of these Christians, and then they think God still loves me. God blesses me with all these riches and all this, all these resources that I'm taking out of the ground. They don't care. But now, I used to be heavy into the left, and the left was about, equality, not my other issue is that the wealthy people are making money from having money, which seems immoral also. And they reap the benefits of most of the work that's done. The wealth inequality is just seems unjust to me. At a basic level, you don't hear the right talking about wealth inequality at all. They want to be rich just like every other asshole. But now, so the left used to be more about, helping out the little guy, helping out the guy on the bottom, and worrying, being concerned about the environment, being concerned about our pollution and our general impact, and, caring about conservation and things like that. So I was a leftist for a long time, but more recently, as I mentioned in a previous video, it's become more about, identity, the identities of people. Who, do black people have enough rights and ability to get ahead? Do women have as much opportunity to get ahead? Do trans people and gay people have as much opportunity to get ahead? And, some of those issues are, ones that I can understand and be supportive of. But, I'm starting to struggle with certain things. I work in a grocery store with a lot of trans people. And, I guess when you see them after they've already been taking hormones, I guess it's easier to accept. Okay, well, they seem like, if they're started out as girls, they seem like guys now, so it's not that strange. But I'm working with somebody who is, on the outside, to me, very feminine, and they're taking testosterone. And just recently, they were saying, "Oh my God, my voice is starting to drop." They increased their dosage of testosterone, and now their voice is dropping. And something about that bothers me deeply. And this is where I understand the perspective of those on the right that are struggling with the new reality of trans people and leftists in general. These people are taking hormones that are changing their body, and something about that just feels wrong to me. It just feels wrong to me. It's not natural to take hormones that change your body. I'm sorry, it's not natural. And to me, things like that aren't natural, that you couldn't have done that. You couldn't have taken these hormones, you know, hundreds of years ago. Nobody was trying to change their body like this, intentionally. It might have happened maybe if they accidentally ate a root that had some kind of effect or something like that, but this is the first time people are doing it intentionally, and it gives me an eerie feeling to see somebody who's feminine becoming masculine before my eyes. It doesn't feel right. And I understand, just like, to me, the whole drag queen thing. I'm sorry, but drag queens, it doesn't feel right to me. There's something that's deeply disturbing to me about drag queens. I watch these ads for RuPaul and things like that, and it's like, you know, I mean, people can do these things, but it should not be exposed to children. I agree with conservatives on this. I agree with people who are more church based. You know, it just doesn't feel like a natural thing to expose young people to. If you want to do this when you become an adult, that's fine. But I'm with people. You know, I think it's, you know, and it's not like it's, I think it's necessarily fully evil, but I feel like these people just, you know, they're harming themselves and they don't really know what they're doing to themselves, you know, that they're, or they're confused. I'm one of that group of people that thinks that trans people are confused about what they want out of life, you know. And it's, they think it's to, you know, I mean, I feel like if you want to embrace your masculine side, that's one thing, but to actually make, you know, to actually do things to physically change yourself. That's just I'm sorry, but that's just messed up. I think it's perverted. It's like, you know. I know that a lot of people I work with would be very disappointed in me for saying this, um, but it just disturbs me. You know. I don't mind if you want to be gay, really. I still think sodomy is messed up. I don't like the idea of putting something in and out whole. You know, I think whether or not it's done by gay people or straight people, I'm also opposed to sodomy. It just feels like, you know, things are meant to work a certain way. And when you go against what's natural, you know, then it just feels like, you know, like you have some kind of wish to, you know, to upset the grand scheme of things, you know, like you've got some kind of deep wish to, you know, destroy everything by making it into a joke. Or not necessarily a joke, but just not taking it seriously, you know. I don't know. It's like there's this, it's just this also this larger trend, you know, with liberals, and it's like there's a lot of goat symbology, you know, people, you know, embracing, you know, the pentagrams and embracing you know, symbols of the occult, you know, simply because it's kind of flies in the face to Christianity, and it just feels like, you know, I don't know, I don't know. It's there, you know, people are upset by Christianity, you know, they think that it's a male dominated thing, you know. I don't know. I look at the, you know, I look at women generally, and I feel like in some ways, you know, I feel like women are more comfortable with sin than men are in a lot of ways. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong to say. You know, I shouldn't even say that necessarily, but I don't know. It just seems like, you know, there's this growing trend of people being turned on by darkness, evil, things that are traditionally seen as dark, you know. People getting their tongue split, people, um, performing sex acts that are not, you know, that are increasingly kinky and strange. Um, you know, you know, things becoming more extreme generally. Sort of a general disregard for. It's like there's a lot of occult symbology in popular music and television and you know, I don't know. It just seems like there's this trend towards, you know, I'm seeing it's just like people are celebrating traditionally, you know, condemned images and you know, things that just basically fly directly in the face of Christianity, that fly in the face of trying to be the classic version of moral and upstanding. You know, it's like it's becoming seen as increasingly cool to, you know, do something that Christianity wouldn't approve of. You know, to people are finding it increasingly sexual to pervert Christianity. I almost feel like, um, you know, there's a sort of, you know, I don't know. It's like there's a that nothing is sacred. You know, nobody. The amount of people that believe in God is rapidly decreasing. You have a lot more people that want to create their own definitions of spirituality that allow them to behave in a way that's not particularly responsible, but still allows them to feel holy or to feel connected. And it just seems like there's this trend away from trying to do, what's morally upstanding and moving more towards, just saying anything goes. I don't have to be a woman if I'm born a woman. I can be a man. I don't have to have sex the standard way. I can cover my body in tattoos, and it doesn't matter. They don't care about the body being the temple. These guys like Post Malone. You wouldn't have a successful figure like that with his face covered in tattoos. There's something mildly demonic about that to me. But people are becoming more and more accepting of it. They're more accepting of body modification and nose barbells and strange, just things that make people look, that just seems like they're basically not treating their body as a temple. They're treating their body as a tool of expression in a way that, shows off how extreme they are, or how little they care about following, the conventions of the church. Because the church has never been less popular in the modern day, and that's I guess my issue with, you know, and it just seems like a lot of women also, especially, are turned on by, taboo things, things that, it's like if you're a good church going, not church going, but if you're someone who's trying to be moral, trying to be ethical, that you're a square, that you don't deserve love, you don't. I don't know. A lot of this comes out of also, I'm listening to this. I saw this video for The Art of Seduction by this guy Robert Greene, who's doing a ton of books that some would say, are inspired by, a devilish outlook on life, or definitely it's decidedly non-Christian outlook on life. Sees the human as an animal, has that kind of anything goes attitude. That life is about, having experiences regardless of whether or not they're right or wrong. That you should just accrue any pleasure. It's really kind of like the guy seems like a hedonist to me. He doesn't make any excuses for doing anything necessary in order to gain power and to gain, strength, and to, seduce whoever you want to seduce and behave in any way you want to behave. No limits. Do whatever it takes to live an exciting life. Regardless of whether you have to break any boundaries to do that. And that's kind of what this book, The Art of Seduction. I was listening to it on audiobook. And you listen to you listen to the people who are successful. I was always wondering, well, like I was saying before, what people do really well with women, and it seems like the guys that do really well with women, it's like I'm noticing some themes in this book. Number one, you know, they're anything goes for these people. It doesn't matter if somebody's married or has a boyfriend or girlfriend or anything like that. You get in and you get yours. It's like, oh, I want to sleep with this person, I'm going to make it happen. Doesn't matter. Nothing that's going to stand in my way. And it talks about picking your victim and how to, the language they use is so, subversive, I guess. Or not, maybe not subversive, but it's manipulative. It's totally designed around hedonism. How do you pick your victim? How do you lie to your victim to make them believe you can be their everything? Um, it seems like it makes most seducers seem just like they have absolutely no morals, absolutely no qualms about doing whatever it takes to, you know, really fool somebody into thinking that you can be their everything. And it's only really as useful as long as, it sort of has this idea like once they get to know the real you, then you can just forget about it because they'll see that you're all flawed. We're all flawed, and so it's like it talks about how people want to escape. They want to do taboo things. They want to you know they want to get past the pettiness of everyday life. But you know in those worlds of getting past that, there's just it becomes like a hedonist paradise that's that really seems like it comes more from a place totally lacking in ethics and morals. And so it's like, yeah, a lot of the language in this is about, how to pick your victim and what strategy to use to fool them into thinking you can be their everything, and you know, they give you a step-by-step guide, and it's just, and it just seems like basically a handbook on how to lie to get people to, to fall in love with you or to be attracted to you or whatever, and it doesn't feel, you know, it's not anything like what you would hope love to be. It's a cynic's view. It's a total cynic's view on love. Long-term relationships mean nothing. You know, lasting love doesn't exist. And it's almost hard not to believe that it's true to some extent. You do think that, obviously there is a major draw to the taboo. And there's a major draw to, behaviors that, I mean, I don't personally feel drawn to do kinky sex acts myself, but you wonder about, girls who've slept around a lot. You think, oh yeah, they probably have a lot of experience. They could show you a thing or two. But giving in to people like that, that they're going to use you and lose you. You know, is that a worthwhile experience to have? Are you doing them any favors? Are they doing you any favors? Does it make the world a better place? I don't think so. You know, it's just it's almost like a desecration of each other's bodies. We're just using each other for pleasure and then dumping each other, and that's it. And you move on. That's what it seems like. That seems like it's the overarching idea of what the mindset should be. Is that we're all just here. We're all just animals. Nothing really matters. Do what you want. Sleep around as much as you can because that's where the real pleasure and enjoyment lies. And it's just it's just sad if that's reality, which I understand why people think that that's reality. There's no proof of anything after we die, but this could be it. There's no doubt about it. This could be all there is. You move on after this, and there could be nothing left. This might be all you get. And if that's the case, it's hard not to think that you shouldn't experiment. You shouldn't see what life has to offer. But I don't know. Personally, I find that a sad state if that's reality. If this kind of fallen state, you know, the total insignificance of it all, people might come up with an idea that there is some significance to it, but it's hard for me to imagine that there's any significance to using each other as objects of pleasure and moving along, to acting in ways that benefit yourself potentially at the cost of other people. To not take anything seriously, to not think that we have that we could do more than just be animals, and we're not just all. I just don't want to believe that I'm just an animal. It's if this is all I get and this is all I am, and I'm an animal, and I never took advantage of the pleasures that exist for animals, maybe I'm an idiot, but it's hard for me to accept that that's the best that we can do. You know, the best I can do is to be a hedonist. It's depressing. It's sad. It makes my insignificance more pronounced, and it's kind of like maybe that's the problem, is that I just can't accept my own insignificance and enjoy myself. But it's hard for me not to think that we're reaching a reckoning point here. That's one thing that keeps me from wanting to indulge and from throwing caution to the wind. I couldn't throw caution to the wind at this point because I could never get what I want, or if I could, I'd have to really practice really hard to get there because I'm not nowhere near being able to get what I want now, and I'm running out of time. I don't think I'd have to get really good in a short period of time. I'd have to be a real charmer, or actually, that's only one of the ways to get women. I'm finding to be a charmer. I'm probably more of the natural. If you want to talk about my style, because I'm kind of childlike. But I'm old to play the natural according to the book. Anyway, all I'm saying is, I wonder about, I see evil on all sides now. On the right, I see a selfishness. I see a lack of, willingness to make sacrifice for the greater good on the right. I see, people being concerned more about themselves than other people. I see people trying to maintain their power. I see people being it's mostly selfishness. The right is a selfish group. Selfishness is not godly. On the left, I see rule breaking. No boundaries. The left, progressive used to mean helping the poor, which is a godly thing. Now it means don't tell me what to do. I want to do whatever I want. I want to have the freedom to break any boundary, to push any limit. To fly in the face of what Christianity would tell me. The left seems corrupted now too. I see both sides of it as evil on some level. There's percentages, don't tell me I can't turn myself into a man if I'm a woman, or vice versa. Don't tell me I can't gash a hole in myself and call it a vagina. I mean, it's just, that kind of thing is just, I'm sorry, that's just an abomination to me. It's just an abomination. You cannot create a vagina where there is no vagina. That's just a mental sickness, I think. That's where the right will agree with me. But see, both sides. I'm just pissing everyone off. I don't agree with. There are parts of the right that I guess I could sort of agree with. I don't know what parts those are really. I mean, the only part of the right is, I mean, you need to have some amount of personal responsibility. I suppose I believe in that, but I also believe that, in our individualistic society, the right doesn't worry about the fact that we're totally individualistic and have no reason to rely on each other and have no reason to form connections. And the right is perfectly happy having their own little nuclear family unit where they watch after that, and that's the only thing they care about, and fuck everybody else. Like that's what the right says too. So, I think I agree with the right on ideas of, trying to create stable families. That's probably where I agree with the right on the social side of it, trying not to, have affairs, although the right is notorious for having affairs, so it's like they pretend to care about these things. They don't actually care about these things. Um, but the ideals of they follow some of the ideals of Christianity, which I can appreciate, and that's something the left doesn't do. But on the left, it's like the left is still concerned about capitalism, which I understand. That's a good thing. I mean, that's one of the hard things. I can't just throw people who are LGBTQ positive and who think white men are the devil. I can't throw them under the rug because they also want to end capitalism, which I think is a good thing. I think capitalism is evil. Um, but they just, in terms of what they're doing with their bodies, in terms of what they're doing on a social level, the lack of rules, the lack of morals, and the lack of interest in, behaving in a way that creates stability for people and families going forward. The embracing of hedonism, I can't go for that either. And, the godlessness, the feeling that we're just nothing but animals and that nothing we do matters, that we make our own meaning and that there's no, greater scheme of things, the existentialism. I can't get behind that either. So, and I see it coming to a head. You've got that kind of, like I said, both sides have their flaws, and especially, I don't know. To me, the right side's flaws is just a total lack of concern about the environment and total lack of concern of self-sacrifice for the sake of the greater good. And the left's problem is a lack of boundaries. Feeling like anything goes, a lack of you know, I guess faith in something greater than the animal life of the human. And meanwhile, we're getting closer and closer to all kinds of disasters. The climate change problem keeps getting worse. Don't believe it if they tell you it's getting better, because we're still pumping out more carbon dioxide now than we ever have in human history. They might talk about all these gains they're making, but it hasn't changed the number. The number is still the largest amount of carbon dioxide we have been pumping into the world. Even with all the things, all the new technologies, all those kind of things, we're still putting out more carbon dioxide now than we ever used to. We're still burning through the Earth's resources as fast as we can. We're still destroying, we're destroying the habitat. Species are going. There's a mass extinction going on still. Um, at some point the oil's going to run out. You've got AI. You know, who knows what's going to become of AI? What will AI do to humans? You know, will it make us no longer human anymore? That whole thing concerns me. I don't trust AI at all. Um, wealth inequality keeps getting worse. At some point, things are going to come to a head. The national debt is trillions upon trillions of dollars. That can't go on forever, right? At some point, something's got to happen there, right? I mean, we're approaching something bad. I've been saying this for a long time. I'm going to keep saying it. It might seem like a long time, but really, my life is nothing. At some point, we're going to run into something. I think it's going to be in my lifetime. I mean, I see the weather, some of these weather things. It snowed like 3 times this year in New England. That's not normal. That is not normal. Something is messed up. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, it's snow. I mean, like we had like, you know, 6 to 8 inches of snow 3 times the whole year. That's messed up. We had like 70-degree weather in February for a week. That's messed up. These things are obvious. Anyone should be able to tell. Yeah, sure, you could say, oh, first-hand experience or whatever. You can't tell me it's normal to have a week of 70-degree temperatures. The numbers are there. You know, and they talked about how the Atlantic Ocean went up a degree, and that they're like, oh, the scientists talk about it like they're so interested in it from a technical perspective. Aren't you panicking? The entire ocean went up a degree? Like, that has fucked people. We are in serious shit. And so I really wonder, I see that the confluence of how we are treating this planet, with, the unsavory behavior on both the left and the right. And I'm thinking this is like a big, giant, we might be approaching, something like the end. And it makes me wonder deep down, is there a judgment coming, Are we approaching the end times? Could be. I can imagine it. I can imagine the seas boiling from runaway climate change. Maybe boiling is a bit extreme, but, something like that. It's in a metaphorical level. Maybe the seas boiling is the Class 3 gun theory. You can look that up. It's about, that's too much to go in. You know, I can see, death, destruction, famine, all that coming. And is that what, I mean, it's hard to, I guess prophecy is a thing that's hard to believe in. It's hard to believe that the Bible is prophecy. But, it does seem like we're headed to something kind of apocalyptic like that. And I wonder, is there any possibility that that's when judgment will happen, Would it, you know, why should I embrace my animal nature now when it seems like we're headed to, the end? And some people would say, well, you better embrace your animal nature because that's all you got, because we'll all be dead and it doesn't really matter, there's nothing left. But I don't know, I don't know. The whole thing makes me uneasy. I feel like on some level I'm happy that, all of my crimes, I mean, I've sinned enough. I've been angry at God. In some ways, though, listening to that art of seduction thing, makes me feel like I'm actually kind of proud of myself for not indulging in the types of deception required to be a great seducer, to have slept with a lot of women, to have lived the life of a hedonist. Because it just, listening to that book, it makes it sound like it's, it just seems so unsavory. It just feels so dirty and wrong to me. I don't know if that's just because I'm not perfect. Like, I couldn't even tell you that I was going to go to heaven. I have serious concerns that even with having avoided it, with being celibate for life, that I'm still going to hell. I certainly have seen enough pornography. I'm not going to lie. When you don't sleep with anybody, when you don't have an outlet like that, you've got to do something to, at least it seems to me like. But I've probably, I've certainly spent more time on it than I should. I've wasted my potential in life, and I've spent more time, on that than I really should have. And if I'd been using that time more productively, I could have made it more of a difference in the world. Um, So I wonder sometimes, well, that could send me to hell. I've cursed God many times over. I've, talked about how I'll never forget. I still have a hard time forgiving God for giving me, you know, for making me, putting me in a way where I couldn't have the girls that I wanted, where I have to sit back and watch these athletes who are, given, you know, picture perfect or whatever, you know, there's the types of strength and physical abilities that I never had. They get to be with these beautiful girls, and why? Because they're physically gifted. I mean, they work hard at what they do, but they wouldn't work hard at what they did unless they had the physique to do it. Unless they had the speed and the talent. They were born with that. They had to develop it, but I would have developed mine too if I thought I could be a star athlete. But I wasn't given those genes. I can guarantee you. I'm not that strong. I'm not that fast. I can't jump that high. You can improve at those things, but there's a certain natural gift that you have to really. And these jocks that get these girls, they were born with it. And there's a select few who manage to develop skills to, but they were talented too. Great singing voices, great, mm, um, you know, lucky enough to born with the right mentor from a young age. I never found a mentor that wanted to show me what I needed to know to get ahead. My parents didn't care. My dad didn't care about raising children that would be well suited to having success in the world. He just thought, oh, you do what you want. If I'll support you, but I'm not gonna. It's like my dad wasn't gonna get behind me and he wasn't gonna try to force me. I didn't have tiger parents, that would sort of force me into trying to find something that I cared about and help me get to be great at it. They left it all to us. It was like, well, we'll support you in anything you do, but we're not going to push you. Leave it to you. They didn't care enough about our progress or our growth. They just thought if we grew up to be normal, everyday human beings, we'd be fine. But I'm not fine with that. I just wanted to be with beautiful girls, you know. Well, not beautiful girls, with one beautiful girl that I connected with, both physically and mentally and emotionally, and I didn't find that. I don't know. I forget how I got into this. I went off on a tangent again. So, oh yeah, that's right. So I've cursed God for, not letting it work out for me. You know, I guess it's partially my fault, but I was never brought. I never felt like I was. I didn't put myself into situations to meet people anyway. But part of the reason for that was because of my defect and how I was treated and made it into an outcast. The world's kind of made me feel like I wasn't worthy, from a young age. And it was nothing what I was doing. It was because I had physical issues that made me lesser than, and people, shat all over me for it. They picked on me, made me feel like a piece of shit. I didn't deserve that in my mind. I'm still angry at God for doing that to me, for making me the target of so much derision. And I have a hard time forgiving God for that. It's hard for me to want to worship a God that whose plan for me was to be treated like shit, ridiculed, outcast, and then left me to, it killed my confidence, made it hard for me to succeed at school. I guess I can say it's obviously partially my fault. It's not all God's fault, but God did me no favors. He didn't set me up for success, or they, whatever. The universe didn't set me up for success. I was set up to fail, it feels like. And it's hard to worship, a God figure that doesn't give you the tools you need to get ahead, It doesn't set you up in a position where it feels like you had an opportunity to, be shown the way, It doesn't feel like God ever wanted to show me the way. It doesn't feel like God wanted me to find my purpose, find my path, you know. By the time I thought I found it, it was too late. I thought I was interested in music, but I didn't think about it seriously. God didn't push me into music. I wasn't pushed in any way. And if you make your own meaning, it's too late for me to make any meaning for myself that matters to me anymore. So, I guess that's why I wonder if I would even go to heaven. I resent the position God has put me in. If God has anything at all to do with where I'm at. If there is a God, it didn't give much of a crap about whether or not I succeeded or failed in life. I don't think. And I'm gonna remain a failure unless there's some miracle that happens. And at my age, it's like I don't even really care much. I didn't want to be a success in my 40s or 50s. I don't see how any amount of success I could have at this age would make up for the decades of disappointment of what my life has been so far. Whatever great things could happen to me from this point forward, what would it lead to? I'm already in my 40s. It wouldn't be a very long before I'm dying of something. I've got like, as far as I'm concerned, anything past 60 is not going to be so fun. So in my mind, I've got about 16 years of life that I can enjoy, and it's not going to ever be as enjoyable as it would have been in my 20s and 30s. If I could have had some success in my 20s and 30s, I could have felt like I was really, I don't know. In my 20s and 30s, I could have felt like, I was on some kind of a path that mattered. I would have cared more. I would have been willing to do more. But I don't know, what could happen in my 40s and 50s that would make me feel like my life was worthwhile. It doesn't feel like it ever will be. I can't imagine being so thrilled with anything that would happen to me from this point forward that would make me feel like my life was worth living. So it's hard for me to forgive God for the position I'm in now. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, and since I don't have it all, you know, I'm 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 expecting nothing. You and it's what I have. It's not that I have nothing. I have what I have, but it means nothing to me. You could say I'm comfortable. I'm more comfortable than a lot of people. I'm luckier than a lot of people. You know, it's not like I shouldn't be enjoying my life at all. I should be thankful for the blessings that I do have. But what it all means in the end is that my life didn't really make a difference. I'm just here using up resources like everybody else. Another reason why I feel like I could go to hell. I could go the extra mile and learn how to live without this stuff around me here. You know, I'm a resource waster like everybody else. Why do I deserve to go to heaven? I probably don't. You know, I thought by trying to be respectful to God in the world of love and relationships that maybe that would make a difference in it. I haven't hurt anybody. At the very least, I haven't hurt people. But when you look at the total of what I have done, the other thing I've done to try to care, is I try not to buy things in plastic. I still fail on that front a lot of the time. Every now and whenever I can, I buy drinks in glass bottles or aluminum cans and not in plastic. I try to avoid buying plastic, but I've bought tons of plastic in my life. I can't get around that. I drive a fuel efficient car. It's a hybrid, but it's I'm still burning gasoline. I try to bike to work occasionally, but not as often as I should. I try not to waste things. Try to make sure food doesn't get wasted. I do little things all the time. I try to care about other people. I try to be empathetic, but I'm not a bad guy. I think people would say generally that I try to be nice, but I'm also self-centered. I really don't care about other people that much. So, I don't know. I guess all I'm saying is that I feel a reckoning coming, and the sacrifices I believe I've made. I try to be a generous person when I can. I try to help people in need. I don't know if I do it for them or if I just do it for me, because it's to cover my ass for the asshole that I sometimes am. But I have a hard time throwing caution to the wind and just embracing my animal nature, and assuming that there's no judgment and that after you die it's over. And it's like maybe I'm gonna pay for that. It's like I'm kind of in this no-win situation where if religion is right and I am gonna be judged, that I could very well go to hell. But if religion isn't right and we're all just animals living on a world where the only experience that matters is the experience you have when you're alive, then I've missed out on worlds of experience because I'm afraid that it will tarnish my soul with sin. I don't know. I hope I hope if it is all coming to an end and the judgment's coming, that I've done enough good things to outweigh the bad. But I don't know that for a fact, and I still resent God for making me such I don't know if I'll ever get over my resentment of God for making me such a pathetic figure in the world. I don't know. I guess this video is mostly just about, is mostly just about evil. The evil I see all around on both sides, and whether or not that evil is real or just imagined. Maybe that's what I'll call the video. Alright, I've rambled long enough. This was totally unfocused. But, yeah. And I apologize, I guess, to people who take offense. I know I've said some things that some people are going to take offense. It probably doesn't matter. My apology probably doesn't matter to you, but it's not like I think that, it's not that I think that people are doing things because they want to be evil. I just think that they're confused, and I wish those people understood the gravity of what they decide. But maybe the gravity of what they decide is nothing. It's like in the end, this just comes down to me being like, what the hell is going on? All right.